Hello and welcome to the Dark Mount video review for Transformers Generations Windblade. Now, Windblade is the result of the Fans' Choice Build-A-Bot thing that they did. I guess it was like the beginning of last year where they had everyone go and vote for a bunch of different characteristics like male, female, alt mode, color, sword. I think name might have been one of them. And the result was a female Autobot jet with a Japanese-esque samurai-ish ninja-type thing going on. Her name is Windblade, and this is the toy that resulted from that poll. So, starting off the bat, before I talk about the figure itself, it's really cool to me that they did that. They didn't have to do that. I will say it didn't turn out to be the most amazing figure ever, but it's still a really enjoyable figure, and the fact that they let fans kind of pick and choose parts to put together or something. I'm sure they had some kind of mock-ups in the background based on the choices they were giving, but it's cool that they let us have input at all, and that's actually the second time that Hasbro or Takara has done that. The first, although I don't remember which one came first, but the Masterpiece Fans' Choice thing that resulted in the Masterpiece Star Saber we're getting soon was another really awesome shout out to their fans. So, thanks guys, appreciated. But yep, she is a black VTOL jet of some unknown variety. She's kind of Thrust-esque in that she's got the VTOL jets in her wings, but she's definitely more sleek looking and a little bit more angular than Thrust has ever been. She has some landing gear molded in down here, and she also has fold-out landing gear here. Her VTOL jets do pivot, which is really awesome, meaning that you can get some of the like pew, swirly stuff that she does in the comics going on, which is pretty neat. Her sword stores under here and just kind of pops out, pegs right here into there, and right there we come to really the only major problem with this figure is that the way they had her, she's kind of Cyclonus-esque in that her legs kind of collapse up on themselves, but because she is a fembot and she is a little bit more slender than other robots, there's not a whole lot of stuff to actually fill this space up. So you end up with a jet with these big legs in the middle of it and a giant hole. I mean, that's not good. There shouldn't be a giant hole in a jet. That's not aerodynamic. But, meh. I mean, she's definitely a jet former in that she's just kind of a folded up robot with a jet on her back. But they have, I'd say, a decent amount of trouble making believable jet formers when they are male robots and they're super chunky. So the fact that they were able to make a decent jet former out of a very slender feminine robot is pretty cool. So I'm not ragging on it, I'm just saying I'm not delusional either. There's giant gaps there, but it really doesn't bug me in the end. She's a Transformer, and she's technically Cybertronian. They went a little bit more Earth mode on this jet, but well, not Cybertronian, but she is like a non-Earth vehicle mode jet, so I'm not really that upset by it. For a size comparison, here she is with Generations skids. Transforming Windblade is a little fiddly at times, but it's not that complicated once you figure out what you're doing. First thing you want to do is fold in the landing gear if you had it out. Then, strangely enough, you want to come back to these back tail fins, and this back section is a separate piece, so you want to kind of work those out, and you'll see that they tab from right here into the back of what will become the legs. And once you have those out, just want to kind of slide these down. They kind of hook around this other side part, and you'll probably end up pulling this head up at some point, but don't worry about that right now. You can fold these down like that, and then just kind of angle these out of your way. Then what you want to do is come down here, separate the two legs. You're going to rotate this around. You can fold this little thing down until it's like that. And then you want to collapse this leg down onto there. And that will create her heel and her toe. So again, fold this down, rotate this around, and collapse the leg down onto there. There you have her legs, which you're going to want to spin around, like so. And then you can fold this back. You want to separate the chest part from the back, which will let you reach in there and pull her head out. And then you want to fold these arms, which are on kind of double hinged struts of some sort, up into typical shoulder area and collapse the back in. And there, in her basest form, you have, well, you can fold these little guys up like that. Sorry. And you want to make sure her heels don't fall back into her feet, because that does happen from time to time. There you have Windblade. Now, a problem that I have with mine is that these joints here are really super tight. So it's kind of hard to get her wings positioned the way that I want them to without it moving other stuff. I'm guessing that's probably going to loosen up at some point, but who knows. The other problem, which I'm definitely going to fix, is that these are really kind of way too loose. They're not like super loose, but they're loose enough that it doesn't take all that much to get them to work back up into the foot, and then she just will not stand. So I'm definitely going to take some clear nail polish in there and tighten this up a whole lot so it does not budge unless I touch it. Because when those are out, she does stand well. Not like amazingly well, but well enough that it's not a problem, unless I'm being fumbly. Part of the issue is that she has these giant things sticking up on her back, so while you're trying to pose her very frequently, when you go to move your hands away, you're going to actually like hit this back part and make her fall over. So that's not awesome. The other issue I had that I was talking about before is these shoulder things that are double jointed. For some reason, this side doesn't want to go all the way down, really. Like, it does for a little bit, and then it will slowly work its way back up to like this position, and it just doesn't like going down that much. Whereas this one is the exact opposite, where if I try to push it up too much, it actually disconnects the shoulder joint. So this one's stuck down like this, and this one doesn't want to stay like that. So it's really, really annoying. This right here takes my enjoyment of this figure down like multiple levels, because it always looks uneven no matter what I do. I don't know how to fix it. I can't even figure out what the problem is. It's like, I think it's this flash right here. Oh, it's definitely that flash. Well, I can fix that. Yeah, so it was totally just that flash getting in the way. Derp de derp. Enjoyment of this figure back up 10 levels. These don't look awkward and uneven anymore. That's great. Great. So, with that issue taken care of, options for display. Obviously, you can just leave these straight out to the sides. They do have hinges in them, however, so you can kind of bend them back. You can bend them straight back if you want, or you can just kind of angle them back. I tend to like them angled back, and that also doesn't destroy her balance, whereas when you try to angle them straight back, it doesn't really let her stand very well because of how much weight is then pulling her backwards. For her weapon, she has this sheath which has little nubs on both sides that allow you, theoretically, to peg the sheath into her waist. This does work, it just doesn't hold in super tight, so a lot of times it will kind of fall out easily. If you're just displaying this on a shelf, it will probably be fine, but as you can see, it also does kind of lead to her being a little back heavy. But not terribly so. It's not like she can't stand. It's just, unfortunately, her feet are kind of very dainty, and you do kind of have to be very careful about making sure that she remains the center of gravity. I cannot speak today, I'm sorry. Making sure that she retains a center of gravity, because otherwise she will just flop backwards. The other thing that you can do with this, obviously, is take the sword out. Oh, and look, Bolt Matrix, I am wrong. Mine does fade, I just never noticed it before. Yeah, so this is a purple blade that fades kind of up at the top to clear. And I totally did not notice that it faded at all until I watched Bolt Matrix's review, and then, yep. So obviously you can throw this, and it's pretty cool. It's got like a little turbine thing in the handle, and it's definitely a neat looking blade. I will give them that. This little guy right here, aside from these two things for putting it on her hip and this thing for mounting it in vehicle mode, also has this kind of cylinder shaped part right here, which, a lot like Rat Trap's little binoculars, can slide right into her hand. So she can use that as kind of like a guard, like a parrying stick. Or you can just have her carry it, it's kind of like whatever. But yeah, I mean, she's definitely a cool chick. She's got a lot going for her. She's a little fiddly in both of her modes, so that's kind of unfortunate, but she's also a fembot vehicle, or like a jet fembot, so a little bit of fiddliness I think was to be expected, just given the limitations of jet vehicle forms and the fact that she's a very slender robot. I am surprised with what they did here. This gold thing in the back here supposedly unpegs and she's able to hold it, although I cannot for the life of me get mine out of there. I've tried using like soft rubber things to kind of wedge it out. I've tried just pulling really hard. Basically, I don't want to snap it off because I do actually like the way it looks on. So if I snap it off and can't get it back in there, I'm going to be kind of irritated. And I don't really ever plan on having her use a fan weapon, so I'm probably just going to leave mine in. This does come out. Maybe it will on yours, but mine does not really like it, so that's that. For size comparisons, here she is next to Generations Roadbuster. So she's definitely on the smaller deluxe size. She's not super tiny. Here she is with Orion Pax, who you can see is actually like a little bit shorter than her at the head. So, like I said, she's not super tiny. She's just definitely not on the larger scale that some deluxes hit. But I think for who she is and how she looks in the comics and everything, she's pretty spot on scale-wise for the Generations line. For articulation, her head is on kind of a backwards and forward swivel and also has some rotation to it, but you really don't get all that movement out of it, all that much movement out of it. These little shoulder bits are articulated, as are her actual shoulder pads. Her arms are on ball joints that rotate along with the shoulder pads so that they do not interfere at all. However, they do smash into the back wing armature here, so you can't really get anything back there without pulling the whole wing around with you, which I guess isn't terrible. At least you can do it. It's not just off limits to you, it'll just bring the wing with it. Or pop it off a ball joint. That's a first. These guys talking about Bolt Matrix and I start popping things off ball joints. We got a pin joint in the elbow, which is very tight, and very tight wrist rotation that I'm not going to mess with much because I don't want to snap her little tiny wrist. But it is there. As you saw in Transformation, she's got the waist rotation. Ball jointed hips, but these little red bits make it so you can't do everything. You have to be kind of specific about where you want to put things. And it also smashes into the wing bits, obviously. She has pin joints again in her knees, which are not anywhere near as tight, which I am thankful for. And then she has the heel articulation, but you're not ever going to want to use that because she will fall on her face. These things in the back are kind of weird. They like go out, but I'm pretty sure they're just supposed to be snug up against her for her robot mode. And you're supposed to use the hinges and stuff if you want to mess with those, but technically you can get some kind of outward movement there, but it'll start disconnecting the shoulder if you go too far. Obviously her VTOL jets are still articulated in this mode, so if you want to have her kind of all VTOL'd up, that's cool too. Although that would probably be blowing air up. We need them like that. But yeah, I mean, she's definitely a really awesome figure. She's a little fiddly. There's definitely some stuff that I would have liked to see them do better, but they did a really good job, and I love fembots in general. I'm really excited to get RC and Chromia, and I'm hoping that at some point we get some kind of Nautica, although I'd be worried that it would be a retool or something of one of the guys we've already gotten, which will probably make it off limits for me, but I love fembots. I think this is a really, really, really good fembot. I think she has a little bit of a weak vehicle mode, but it's still pretty fun. Her robot mode is fun. It's just a little bit fiddly to get her to stand properly, but it's much easier if you have her holding her weapons because it puts a lot more weight on the front of her. The only real major complaint other than the leg gapping in vehicle mode, that would be my vehicle mode complaint. My robot mode complaint is not so much a complaint as an aesthetic thing. I think the wings are a little bit too big in this mode. And especially given that her leg transformation kind of takes a lot from the, what was it, Universe Cyclonus? The Chug Cyclonus. It would have been cool if they kind of took a cue from his upper wings and had these maybe fold in on a double joint and then fold back out the way his did, so that they were made shorter a little bit. That said, with how much stuff is already going on in this area, like you have this joint, and you have this joint, and you have these joints, and you have this joint, and you have the separate ball joint, and you have this thing, and you have this thing, adding like 2 more things for a double joint would have probably just been utter madness, and it would have made the parts count in these wings like more than the rest of the figure itself, so I understand why they didn't do that, so I'm not going to necessarily say that's a detractor for the figure. In a perfect world, it would have been awesome, but I can see why that would be prohibitive, especially for a deluxe class toy. So yeah, all in all, I definitely recommend her. If you have other figures in the deluxe range that you want to get and you're on a limited budget, you might want to go for them first. Although I will say this, and I'm not usually like a support Hasbro even if you don't like stuff thing. She's not a perfect figure, but she's in no way a horrible figure. And she's a fan's choice figure, and I would like to see people support her because I think it's really cool that Hasbro even did this. So if you're even on the fence about getting her, unless you have some reason to think you're going to hate her, which I really don't know why you would. She's a good figure. Get this. Get it. Support them. Support the fact that they did a fan's choice poll and they made a toy that people told them to make. That's really, really neat. And it's like a, what, $14, $15 toy. Wait until it's on clearance at Five Below or something if you have to, but she's good. She deserves some recognition for being good. The last thing I will touch on is her face, because I forgot to touch on it during the actual review. She's definitely a little more stern than her comic appearance is. She doesn't have that white kind of childlike geisha thing going on. It's more of a silver with red over her eyes. It kind of reminds me of like a mix between like a geisha look and like a Native American warrior. She's got a little bit of that like war paint vibe going on, so I like it. It's not necessarily super comic accurate, but I really do like it. And since this is a Generations toy, I never really expect those to be 100% accurate on all fronts, because they're kind of loose interpretations of characters updated for a modern line that are all supposed to go together. So I don't mind when they take some liberties and some design choices like that. I don't need everything to be ripped from the screen or the page to enjoy the fact that it definitely represents the character. And I think it does a great job. So, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. And, keep it cool.